Welcome back, all my 40K fanatics out there. I'm DJ here with Tim's Nation to bring you another faction-focused video. This one focusing on the Hexmark Destroyer. That's right, our good old buddy, the Galactopus. Today, we're going to talk about all the craziness that he can do and all the fun stuff that comes with him. Unfortunately, the kids got me again. They got me sick. And of course, they got me sick the day of the RTT. So I wasn't able to go. But being a YouTuber and getting content out here, I know that consistency is important. So got some cold medicine, and here I am. So if my voice is a little raspy, hopefully you guys will understand. And with that being said, hopefully you will still subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell for notification, get notified on all the faction-focused videos, including all the other content and battle reports that we bring you here on the channel. For now, we're going to talk about the Hexmark Destroyer. I picked him today because he's a little bit easier to talk about. Even though there's a lot that goes into him, he's still very, very easy to he's a great and easy model to talk about. And before we get into all that, though, I definitely want to give the Hexmark Destroyer my Matt Ward approval rating on this guy. And for those of you who don't know who Matt Ward is, way, way back in the day of 40K, Matt Ward is a legendary, for not all the great reasons, Codex creator. Now, over the years, I will give the benefit of the doubt, he has done a lot of the writing and story and backstories for armies and some of the different Black Library books. And from what I've seen and what I've been told, he has focused it more in. But during the early times when no one was really checking onto these things, man, his rules and lore were crazy. He is the one who declared that Drago carved the name of the Primarch into Mortarion. So there's some crazy, crazy stuff from Matt Ward. And also, his rules were wild, wild rules that you would just read them and go, did anyone test this? Some crazy, crazy stuff. And this definitely has a very big Matt Ward feel. So let's start talking about the Hexmark Destroyer as far as what he is, what he can do, and all in all, how you include him on the battlefield. So for starters, his stats. He's got a 7-inch move with a toughness 5, 3-up save, 5 wounds, leadership 6, and objective control value 1. He is a character, and he does have the lone operative special rule, which we'll talk about in a minute. So all in all, he's a basic character. He is stat line and everything like that. And what's odd is that he has that toughness 5, not toughness 6, where we see on some of the other destroyers like Scorpex and things like that. So it's a little weird that he only has a toughness 5, but whatever, he's got lone operative. So I'm cool with that. On top of the fact, since he is a character, there is no units he can lead. So he will always be by himself. So, and since he'll always be by himself, let's go over into his abilities. He has the Deep Strike special rule, as well as lone operative. He does have reanimation protocol, so he's going to be able to heal himself off damage. And then he has Escapable Death and Multi-Threat Eliminator. So Escapable Death is a very, very long paragraph, which basically sits down to, early on, this is one of the kind of weird ones. So early on, when we saw stratagems that said, or we had the character abilities that said you could only use a strat once, you could use a strat more than once a phase and do it for 0 command points, questions were asked in certain stratagems like Overwatch that specifically said they couldn't be used more than once. And this was one of the units that kind of made that controversy because it's like, well, wait, this unit specifically states that it can. And so that's where I jump back to the ability, Escapable Death. Basically, to shorten up the paragraph, once per turn, even if you've already used the Overwatch stratagem, you could use it again. So you'd have to use it one time for a command point, and then you could use it for free on the Hexmark Destroyer for 0 CP. On top of that, he hits on 2s. That is really, really cool. Basically, it just means whenever, wherever, however, you Overwatch with him. Every single turn. Every time something moves by him, moves away, etc., he's going to Overwatch and he's going to shoot. So, Galactopus, Scott's guns. Now, if that wasn't good enough for you, or that wasn't enough, let's take a look at his second ability. But okay, well, first, before we get into his second ability, let's talk about what his weapons are, because this matters over the whole thing. So he has the enigmatic disintegrator pistols, which is precision and pistol. It's an 18-inch range, 6 shots. So instead of him having 6 pistols like he used to, instead he just has 6 shots. And ballistic skill 2, strength 6, AP 2, 1 damage. Okay, decent profile. And then in combat, he's got 4 attacks, strength 5, AP 0, 1 damage. Obviously, this guy is not meant to fight that way. So the strength 6, AP 2, 1 damage is something that you might turn your nose up to, because especially for a 75-point model, you might look at it and go, well, that's, even for a free Overwatch, I don't see that. It's good, it's decent, it's going to do some damage, but meh, until we get to the multi-threat Eliminator rule. This is the big kicker. So, the multi-threat Eliminator. Each time an enemy unit targets a friendly Necron unit within 3 inches of this model with a ranged attack, after that enemy unit has shot, this model can shoot as if it were the shooting phase. There's a couple of critical things here. So, you have a big brick of Necron warriors, and they're stretched out all over the place. And your Hexmark's behind it, and the unit can only see to the front and shoot at the front. Guess what? That unit is still within 3 inches of the Hexmark, triggers the rule. On top of the fact, you do not, and this is the big one, nowhere in it does it say you have to shoot back at the unit that just shot. So if there's another close combat unit that's just hanging out over here by the Hexmark Destroyer and a unit over here shoots, you can just keep pinging at them with the Hexmark, pinging at them with the Hexmark. So every time they shoot at your warriors, bam, round of shooting on them, bam, round of shooting on him, and just keep going and going and going until that unit's destroyed or not in range or not a target anymore of any which ways, or you don't get shot at. This is one of the silliest rules in all of 40K right now. And being the fact that I'm a Necron player, I'm going to be partial to it and say, I love it. I love this rule. I love that the Hexmark can do this. I think it's really, really cool, especially the Overwatch on top of this. It's just so much random shots. It's just hold 6 dice in your hand, and every time your shots go, okay, going to shoot at him, boom, boom. 2's to hit, maybe 3's to wound, because strength 6, pretty decent strength there. And just start nickel and diming damage on units and really make your opponent think, do I want to shoot at this? Do I want to? Yes, no, maybe. So that rule is bonkers, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Now, as far as the Hex market competitively, viability, I think we're going to see a lot more of him, especially with Xerath dropping in points and some Xerath builds becoming more popular. Xerath builds tend to run a lot more warriors, which means that the Hexmark has the ability to shoot more and do its abilities more off these bigger bricks. Armies like my Canoptic Harvest don't tend to do really well with him, so he kind of stays. I don't run him in there. I don't tend to have the targets for him to really double up on, and I just feel like for his points, he's going to get shot down and not get to do all the cool stuff that he would get to do in a warrior-heavy build. Warrior-heavy builds, Hexmark's almost an auto include. Not to mention, because he has lone operative, he is a great, great choice for Sovereign Cornell. To be able to also have him give off that character aura, because as I mentioned before, he does have Deep Strike. And honestly, I would say almost 10 out of 10. 9 out of 10, almost 10 out of 10 games, you're going to want him in Deep Strike. He does only have an 18-inch range. And because of the fact of how his abilities work and being able to overwatch and shoot, I think he's something that once the game starts playing out, you're going to want to drop him in and position him in a place where he's going to be able to get those firing lanes and possibly not get destroyed himself by a unit getting within 12 inches and shooting him. Now, because he is a character, for one command point, you can stand him back up when he dies, but command points are a little tough. Do you really want to spend a command point on your Hexmark when you may need to spend it on a reanimation buff on someone else? Things to think about. Things to think about with that, with positioning him. I do think that he is almost always a Deep Strike unit. Now, on top of that, in matchups where you may not really be able to utilize him fully, maybe you're going into a more combat matchup, he is a smaller base, so he's very good to be able to drop into a corner and play secondary missions. He does have an objective control value of 1, so he can steal an objective that no one's sitting on, and he can take corners, do secondaries, or maybe even thread the needle and get behind enemy lines or engage on all front for you. 75 points is steep for a behind enemy lines model, but if 9 times out of 10 you're going to be able to use him for his weapons profile, might as well. I do think that it's a warrior build that really does well with him. At least 2 squads of warriors, so that you have that opportunity to shoot him multiple times at targets and slow your opponent's roll, slow their movement into you, because he can just keep peppering damage onto a unit. Even a squad of Terminators with 3 wounds apiece, a 4-up invuln, it's just constant fire that he's just constantly shooting again and again and again, every time those warriors get shot at. So I really think that he does really well into the warrior builds. Now, with some of the, like I said, a more mech build, which my harvest is, everything kind of pops out when it's ready to start attacking, and doesn't really stay in a good formation for him to be able to function well. And that's not a testament to say, oh, well, he's not good. There are lists that do not run the Hexmark. So if you're sitting there and you're hearing this and going, man, the Hexmark is amazing, but I just can't fit him in, or it's not working for me, it's probably not you. It's probably the list you have designed doesn't suit the Hexmark, and that's okay. Sometimes there are lists that don't suit the biggest, meanest models. Technomancers are kind of fall into an auto-include. He is not necessarily an auto-include. He is a very, very good include. He is a very strong include. He is a strong choice that both you and your opponent should be aware of what this model can do and explain what this model can do, because it's confusing at first. The fact that it's like, no, I don't have to shoot back at the unit that just shot at me. I can shoot at anyone. And I get to shoot as many times as that unit gets hit. And I overwatch for free. Those are things you definitely want to bring up to your opponent and kind of talk it out through them. Maybe put the Hexmark down and say, listen, you hit here, he shoots. You hit here, he shoots again, and he doesn't shoot. And explain it so your opponent kind of knows what's going on, because that can lead to a lot of feels bads and gotcha moments on something. The good thing is a lot of people really do know what the Hexmark can do. It's one of the meme-worthy units of the Necron army, aka the Galactopus, that people tend to know what it's doing and how to combat it and how to be prepared for it. Just because of, you don't want to get stuck into a trap where you're shooting, and you lose a unit to the Hexmark and don't even take out a squad of warriors or take out a target. That's not good. It's great for us, but it's not good for the opponent. So a lot of people do kind of understand, especially a unit like this, what they're looking at, what they're getting into, what they're doing. But always, it's just a table courtesy. Try and explain it to your opponent. Make sure they know what's going on with one of these super, super, super silly models that we get in our army. And I hope they don't change him too much for the Codex, because he's a lot of fun too. It's a lot of fun to just sit there and smile and go, all right, I'm going to shoot again. I love using him. I do. And if he synergized better with my Canoptic, he would be in there. And for a while, I was looking at it and going, what could I cut? How could I put him in here? And then after playing the army, I was like, I don't really feel like he does well in here. Now, my Xeris build, oh yeah. Hexmark loves my Xeris build. And he just drops in out of Deep Strike and says, come at me, bro. Come at me. So those are my thoughts on the Hexmark. Now, as I was talking about before, I was considering taking the Tesseract Ball to an RTT. Unfortunately, I did not get to attend the RTT because I've been very, very sick, and I had to get healthy because I still got a work week ahead of me and the kids and so much other stuff, so I had to get healthy for it. But hopefully I'll be able to pick up another RTT here very soon and get something set up out there. I think we might be getting the vault here on the channel. Let me know what you guys think. Do you want to see the vault on the channel? Would you like to see it in action, or are you guys don't really care and don't care about the vault and would much rather see just the regular Transcendent Catan in action? So let me know in the comment section with your votes. Any of your comments and everything else, leave it right at the bottom. Vault or T Catan. Let me know what you guys think. And yeah, I hope you enjoy the video, and I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for watching.